Hello everyone, Namaste. I am Harikumar with you on Bodhi TV show now. I hope you may have understood that we are on Bodhi TV show now. And you may have understood that I am Harikumar talking with you. As I mentioned Bodhi TV, you may have recognized that, oh, it's Bodhi television, striving for propagation of Buddhist teachings from Nepal, from the birthplace of Buddha. What makes us understanding all this and that? What works with our mind? Is this our mental activities, just a simple activity, or it's a capacity of mindfulness? Let's have some queries with the world-renowned cognitive neuroscientist, Dr. Maria Kozhevnikov. Welcome to our Bodhi television.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
It's very good opportunity that we got to talk with you this time. May I request you to put some lights on the matters of our understanding, learning, memorizing, and so on, in context of mental activities. What makes our mind working?
So this is a very complex question, and to answer, I will just give a bit of history of psychology. So until 1960s, around 1960s, psychology didn't study mind or mental processes because they consider it almost impossible. Mind is invisible. We cannot actually know what people think or what people doing. So the approach was just to ignore it completely. So what they study in psychology, it's what's called stimulus response. You know, I'm asking you something, you're responding, so the link between the two. So, but the process of the mind considered to be impossible to study, and they were out of any respectful discussion. Around 1960, there were researchers in cognitive psychology. Cognitive means mental activities, mind activities, who stepped forward and they told we need to study mind. We need to be as physics, chemistry. They study invisible phenomena. Let's study mind. So let's model, let's formulate hypotheses, what's going on in the mind. Let's formulate different theories, what's happening when people perceive, recognize, understand, visualize, imagine, and then we will do experiments to prove or reject our theories. So around 1960, the new field of psychology born. It was called cognitive psychology. Cognitive means study the mind processes, invisible, internal mind processes, which includes everything: visualization, imagination, memory, attention, concentration. So all mind, all mental functions constitute cognition. So new field, cognitive psychology, they started to really focus, study all these functions, all these processes you mentioned: learning, memory, recognition, perception, attention, and so on. So, and similar neuroscience, cognitive neuroscience, this is neuroscience which study mind. So what neural processes, what brain processes underlie mind working. So this is what cognitive neuroscience means, because we have like all different other neuroscience, molecular neuroscience, behavioral neuroscience. They don't study mind. Cognitive neuroscience, this is really this link between brain and mind. This is the focus of cognitive neuroscience. So, and all these questions, this is what we study: learning, memory, attention, perception, and how they work.
In our Eastern society, somewhere we consider mind different than the mind the Westerners understand, like the brain and mind. It's different in our perception. Is this same in your study also?
It's more philosophical question, but cognitive neuroscience do not try to answer this question. What they're trying to answer is what we see, what kind of brain activity we see when people engaged in different mental, mind-related processes. So we're looking for the link. We're not actually trying to answer the question, whether brain and mind is the same. So,
Okay. Could you describe some more about your findings you have gained throughout the tremendous researches you have done in your long run of time, right?
So I study, my primary focus of my research is visualization or imagination, how people visualize, how artists visualize, how scientists visualize. So what happened in their mind and also what happened in their brains, when they visualize. So this is my main focus, and this is why I so much interested. This is why I came in Nepal in 2004 to study Vajrayana. So because Vajrayana, Tibetan Buddhism, they use a lot of visualization. So that was my interest, how they use visualization, how meditators use visualization, and what is their what is the goal, why they use this visualization in their practices, because not all meditators, not all branches of Buddhism rely on visualization. So visualization was my main interest. And my main discovery in the field of visualization is that there are different types of visualization. So like, for example, scientists visualize very differently and they use very different parts of the brain than artists when they visualize. So visualization is not one single there are many different types of visualization, like scientific versus artistic, colorful visualization, schematic, and they are underlined by different neural networks in the brain. So that's my focus. And of course, Vajrayana use a mix of visualizations, and I specifically study how they use this visualization to get to the heightened state of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. So you have researched on Vajrayana meditation. How you get so how you got involved with this practice and in this research?
So it happened in 2004. So I was participating in a conference organized by Mind and Life. This is Mind and Life Institute. This is one of the first conferences. So Dalai Lama came to Boston. It took place in Boston at MIT, and he brought with him his monks. And from neuroscience side, there were neuroscientists who wanted to make a bridge, who wanted to understand, how mind works from both perspectives, Buddhist and scientific. So my supervisor, Steve Koslin, he was #1 researcher in the field of visualization. He was organizing this conference from neuroscientific side, and he had a discussion with Dalai Lama about visualization abilities of Vajrayana monks. So, and Dalai Lama said that they have real exceptional visualization ability. They're doing deity self-visualization for many hours, and they can keep this image in their mind for hours, if not days. So, and my supervisor, Steve Koslin, said, "Oh no, this is absolutely impossible. This makes absolutely no sense, and I don't even want to hear about this." So Dalai Lama told him, "Okay, so maybe you will come and check yourself, abilities of our monks." And of course, Stephen Koslin didn't want to go, but I was very interested. I was part of this conference. So I came to Matthew Ricard. Matthew Ricard is a monk of French origin. He resides in Sechen Monastery here in Kathmandu, and I asked him whether he can arrange for me to come and do this experiment in Sechen Monastery. So this is how it started. So 2004, I came for 1 year to Sechen Monastery. It was my sabbatical year to study exceptional visualization abilities of Tibetan monks. So, and this is how the whole story started.
It's very attractive. How did you research the mind activities of the monks at that time?
So at that time, back then, I gave them a lot of different visualization and attention tests to measure and compare with Western population, because they claim that they have exceptional visualization abilities, so there was a whole battery, computerized testing on visualization ability, plus attention and plus visual memory. So I came to Sechin monastery with this battery with my computer and started to give Sechin monks, all these different tests and compare how they perform versus people in the United States, average people in the United States.
So there is difference in average people's mind and the persons who are meditating?
I didn't find that, and that was at first it was very frustrating because the monks at Sechin and other monasteries, and I expanded to other Tibetan monasteries and also Theravada monasteries, and what I found, there was no difference, so they didn't have exceptional visualization skills, they didn't have exceptional attention capacity, despite, some of them meditated for quite long. There were monks at Sechin who spent 6 years retreat, but no, their mind capacities were the same as average people in the United States. So I was very, very frustrated because, I couldn't find anything. So actually, I already was ready to leave, and kind of conclude that there is no any capacities. But then a very interesting story happened with me, because when I was running experiment with one of the monks at Sechin, my computer froze, completely froze. And monk was very bad at this test. He was very slow. He couldn't understand. His performance was quite poor. So computer broke, froze. So I stopped the experiment. I came home. It took me a few days to fix the computer, and then just out of respect, I returned back to look at the same, to finish the experiment with the same monk. So I came back, and the monk was doing deity self-visualization, during this time. So I was waiting for him maybe for half an hour, 40 minutes. And then he came out, and then he told me, oh, now I can do all your tests. And I didn't believe him, but then suddenly he performed them at genius level. So, and this is when I realized the first time, and this was my biggest discovery. This is a state. These monks doing these Vajrayana practices can get into a state of enhanced visual awareness. So it's temporary. It lasts, while they're doing the self-visualization. Then, of course, it degrades and go back to baseline. But this deity self-visualization gives them access to enhanced states, temporary states of exceptional visual awareness. So that was the biggest discovery. It's not the abilities, long term, that they're better than American or European who do not meditate. No, it's meditation, Vajrayana practices gave them access to this enhanced state of mind, temporary state with enhanced visual capacities. So that was the main results, and it was fully replicated. So this is access to heightened state of awareness. These practices, not to the long term, but to states of heightened awareness. This is what meditation doing. And Western people do not know these states, they don't know how to get there.
After this experimentation, have you done any cross-verification with other peoples also?
Yes, I did a lot cross-verification. So a lot of different monasteries in Nepal, in Bhutan, and also I did also as a Buddhist tradition. So for example, Theravada tradition do not cause this kind. It causes different state, but not what I just described, not heightened state of visual awareness. Of course, they don't use visualization, so this doesn't happen. So it's Vajrayana, Nevari Vajrayana similar. It causes heightened state of visual awareness. So yes, and I also try across tradition, across different meditation. But it's really Tantric Vajrayana, which gives the access to practitioner to these states.
Have you yourself practiced this also?
Yes, and that's what I was trying to say earlier. You cannot, as cognitive neuroscientist, you cannot study something that you don't understand, because even to design experiments, you need to have very good idea what you expect to get, So, and if you don't understand what you study, there is no way you can even formulate hypotheses. So yes, I did study a lot to understand the state, to be able myself to get into these states, and then formulate neuroscientific hypotheses, what could be brain correlates, what could be physiological basis of these states. And this is all my research later was focused specifically to find physiological body and mind brain correlates of this state, which actually mechanism, how exactly from scientific perspective these monks can get into this heightened state of visual awareness.
In worldly matters, we think our body is just physical appearance, right? Do you think if it's beyond that also?
I think it's beyond that also because, similar as Vajrayana, it's mind-body practices, right? Mind and body, something inseparable. Like in psychology, we have this very modern theory about embodied cognition, that cognition embodied in the body. So they all work together and as one mechanism. And indeed, this is what I found out even about my heightened state of visual awareness. They produce by the body, and mind together. So they're not possible without body. So body and mind, this is, they inseparably connected.
But in Buddhist practice, we believe that our mind passes through the life after life. In reincarnations also, our mind passes through. Do you have any research on it?
I think it's not mind, it's more kind of energy body or subtle
I'm asking
body,
you
right?
because you are a neuroscientist.
Yes. Okay, so the main paradigm, the main theoretical framework in neuroscience does not accept existence of mind without brain or body. So this is the main framework, and because we don't even know how to explain. Even if you have evidence, we don't even know how to investigate it. And for example, I read a very interesting book by Jim Tucker. He is professor in University of Virginia. He documented a lot of stories of children who remember past life. But it's very interesting. And actually, I just want to say, when I read it, I noticed that they report their stories very much reports similar to those people who have amnesia. So it's very interesting phenomena, but nevertheless, it's not supported. You have no way to investigate it empirically. As long as you cannot support it empirically by research, you cannot accept it. You don't know how to interpret it. So at that moment, you have no tools even to design experiments to verify these stories. So that's why the approach is cognitive neuroscience is simply to reject. Again, I'm not saying it's a right approach, but we do not have a way to verify these claims. They're not falsifiable. We have no way as neuroscientists to support or reject them.
So it is limited.
Yeah.
Up to that level which the technology is supported.
It's not even technology, it's overall understanding of mind and brain mechanism. It's an overall theoretical framework plus technology as well. And just to explain that science, including neuroscience, is all about getting empirical evidence. So you need to support your hypothesis by evidence, empirical, by data. If you cannot, your hypothesis is considered not falsifiable and not valid, So at this point, we don't have tools to empirically support this, this idea about reincarnation and what reincarnate. So that's why it's not even the topic of discussion in cognitive neuroscience. But again, it doesn't mean that maybe in 100 years we have different theories, different tools, maybe we can empirically support or reject this idea. So.
Okay. Is there something else that we may achieve in life beyond the material achievements?
This is what I'm trying to show in my research. So I found these heightened states of visual awareness for Vajrayana. There are heightened states heightened states also for Theravada style of meditation, they're different. They're different experientially. You know, you probably heard about this jhanas and jhanic experience. They're also heightened states, but they're not visual. Vajrayana have heightened state of visual awareness. In this heightened state of awareness, mind works in a totally different way. Very, very different. And cognitive neuroscience knows almost nothing about it. So people perform like geniuses. They have extremely high energy. They see, understand the world completely different than regular people in their average, in their average condition, ordinary state of mind. So this enhanced state of mind, this is a whole new world. And people who actually experience them, they're very happy. They see the world differently, they understand it differently. So this is what I really want to show to humanity. And this is why I'm doing this research on meditation, to show that these states are real and people can open the whole new world for them if they learn how to access the states. Now I just want to say something that in the Western society, in clinical psychology, again, they don't know anything about the states. So when meditators in the Western society start to experience them, they consider them pathological, deficient. They treat them as mentally, like deficient state, which comes from complete misunderstanding, of what meditation can do and what these states actually involve. So this is my real goal, to show Western neuroscience that these states are real. They're way beyond the exceptional states, and we really need to study them and to understand. And this would be something beyond just materialistic, values. This is something way beyond that. So this is my goal.
Nowadays, we can see many people practicing meditation in monasteries here in Nepal also. Have you any interaction with them or any?
Western people?
Yeah.
Yes, but there is a bit of a problem here because there is not a lot of practice going on in Nepal in general. A lot of textual studies, a lot of philosophy. So a lot of Buddhist centers teach Westerners more philosophy, less meditation. Or even if they teach meditation, it's very, very basic. And so I don't think it's deep enough even to let these Westerners to feel what really meditation practice is about. So it should be way more intense and way more focused to give tangible results, So this is my perspective. So we really need to study these meditative practices and make them more systematic, and more deep, not just, and textual study is good, but textual study do not do much, to learn meditative practice.
Yeah, right. As you said, they are practicing also in basic level.
Yeah.
And we can see most people think that they are practicing meditation for achievement of mindfulness or to get some peace of mind.
Yes, and that's not exactly right way to define meditation. And this is what, unfortunately, the perception of meditation is in the West. In the United States, even Singapore, they think meditation is mindfulness, and that's it, So, like, for example, I was given a talk in Singapore to our faculty and students, and then I showed this deity, how, Tibetan visualize the deities, and they told me, oh, but this is not meditation. This is not Buddhism. This deity, what is this? We learn mindfulness, peace of mind, and that's it. But meditation is not just about peace of mind. It's really about mind training. It's way beyond that. And there are very different types of meditation. There is Vajrayana. It's also mind training, but it's not based on these peaceful, peaceful states. It's kind of more energetic states, right? So they know very little, and they do practice mostly mindfulness and think that all meditation is mindfulness. So this is an unfortunate state.
So, Dr. Maria, you have practiced meditation yourself and researched with other people who are practicing meditation. Do you think the meditation affects in daily life of people also?
It depends again what level of meditation we're talking about. So, for example, mindfulness has a really significant effect on people who who had, for example, post-traumatic stress disorder. It can actually elevate their suffering, So yes, so it can help, But for example, I study Vajrayana meditators in Bhutan who were doing advanced practices. And I study Tumo when, they can draw their energy to a central channel and generate heat, psychic heat. So they were able to raise their body temperature. And this is up to fever level. And this is what I observe. And medical science considers this impossible, totally impossible. So even the fact they were able to do it shows that those exceptional people, this completely breaks all the, ideas of medical science. So of course, these advanced Vajrayana practices, made them really powerful. They can control their body. They can control their autonomic nervous system, which is considered to be outside of conscious control in medical sciences, So it's a huge achievement, So yes, of course, meditation can change. And advanced level can make people really extraordinarily powerful. And mindfulness, I think, is very helpful to treat clinical disorders, So depends. Again, we go into the same question. There are so many meditation types. We really need, as scientists, to know which one to apply when. When we want to treat disorders, mindfulness is good. But when we want to train, like, say, mental Olympic champions, then we need maybe more advanced Vajrayana practices. So it's kind of...
Have you met any hospitals, like doctors prescribe some persons after investigating their some illness or something else, they prescribe meditation or mindfulness or like this?
Unfortunately, they prescribe mindfulness, doesn't matter what. And I don't think it's correct thing to do. So now they think in the West that the mindfulness will help everything in the world, So doesn't matter what problems the person has, let's give the person mindfulness. So, which is, again, completely not true. And as a scientist, we really need to understand, when we need to prescribe mindfulness, when we don't need to prescribe mindfulness. So, for example, there was a research project in Singapore, in the hospital. They prescribed mindfulness to doctors, not to surgeons, not to patients, because they believe it can increase compassion, of surgeons to their patients. It didn't happen. Surgeons were extremely unhappy with this mindfulness. They were saying it was very difficult for them. It's not what they're usually doing. And they really stressed. Better they spend some time with their families than taking these mindfulness courses. So it didn't work. It didn't improve their compassion. Because why should it? So what I'm trying to say, before prescribing mindfulness, we need to understand, what mindfulness exactly doing, who need mindfulness, and maybe somebody need more advanced Vajrayana practices, So it's very individual, and as a scientist, you really need to study more in depth this question.
As you mentioned, compassion. It's a very great term, right?
Yes.
How, as a cognitive neuroscientist, you describe compassion in more? Something more?
Yes, it's kind of compassion to the pain or problem of another person. So you don't distance yourself. You're really trying to identify yourself with that person, understand the problem happening. It's a big issue, and also a lot of studies going on, and it's very popular right now to do studies in the West on how meditation affects compassion. But my problem with these studies is, first of all, they study mostly mindfulness. And second is that they're not interested in the mechanism. They usually, doing these what we call behavioristic studies. They given mindfulness and then looking at the compassion survey, whether it increased compassion or not. So again, we really need very in-depth research, scientific, cognitive, about how exactly mindfulness can, any other meditation, maybe other meditation can enhance compassion better. So how this meditation can, what is the mechanism, and how to enhance compassion. So we really need more cognitive research in all the domains. This is another problem. The research in meditation is not cognitive. It's mostly behavioral and clinical, so very little very little scientists looking at the mechanism, and that's what we need, because we really need to understand how it works before prescribing or making a conclusion about compassion or doing anything.
May I ask you one thing? Is there any, oh, it's good with cognition, or it's not good for cognition, like this?
Meditation. Or
Whether meditation or in general people, like status of cognition. What is the state of cognition with me or with you or with anyone else? Is there good or bad with it?
status of cognition of,
Yeah,
of people.
Yeah.
It's impossible to say this because cognition is extremely complex thing. So, for example, mind as cognition, it's million of components. Visualization is one component, memory is another component, attention is yet another component. So it's all depend what exactly you're talking about. So you can say this person has good attentional capacity or bad, or this person has good visualization capacity or bad, or this person mentally healthy or has a problem, you know. So it's very different issues, because a person could be very smart but was not able to visualize or have no visual. So it's a very, very complicated, cognition is a very complex thing. It's not one, the same as mind. So it's depend what exactly you're talking about.
So taking one thing, we cannot conclude like cognition is good or bad.
Not at all, because, you know, like the person could be, even visualization, you know, the artist, for example, they good in colorful imagination, but they're not able as scientists to visualize complex spatial relation. So you cannot say they're good or bad. No, they are artists. They're good in color, visualization and shape, you know, because they're artists. But as scientists, they're very poor, you know. So, and scientists, they're very good in space and spatial arrangements, but they cannot imagine color, you know, very vividly. So no, you cannot, even within visualization, you cannot say good or bad, you know, because it's so complex, you know. That's why that's why we really need to understand meditation affect which component of cognition, you know. Maybe for some component it's not good, for others it's great. So it's a complex question. So meditation is a very complex thing. It's not just mindfulness, and cognition is a very complex thing. So the goal is really to map, you know, what kind of meditation enhance what kind of cognition components. So this is what science needs to do.
So may I add some more? Have you done or still doing any research on the relation of cognition and meditation?
Of course. So this is enhanced visual awareness states. So I study physiological body correlates. So what I'm doing, I'm using neuroimaging recording devices. So, okay, MRI, this is, I cannot take it with me to the field, but I'm using EEG. EEG is encephalogram, so you measure recording from the scalp for brain activity. And then ECG measure your heart rate, and then you can see. So when people go in, for example, into heightened state of visual awareness, you can actually really see what's going on with their brain and also with their body. So, for example, heart start to pump blood in a very specific way, which we call arousal. Arousal means it's a very energetic state of the body. So when they're going into the state, the body going into high energy state, you know, the heart start to pump blood into the brain and all other organs, and then you have expansion of cognition because of blood, you know, flow into the brain increase. So yes, so this is what I do. I study the mechanism, how exactly it works, how these people get into the states, and what exactly they experience in these states.
What will be the state of cognition in some sick person or some person nearly dying or in different ages?
We cannot again say it because cognition is so complex. You know, you could be sick, but you might be genius at the same time. You know, like Einstein, he could be maybe dying, but he was still genius. So it all depends again what sickness you have, what kind of sickness, because if you have neurological disorder or some part of your brain damage, this is one thing. If you have some, body problem, it's another thing. So it's all about, what we're talking about, what kind of sickness and what kind of cognition. Again, are we talking about visualization or perception or recognition or attention, what we're talking about. So it's complex. So there is no one-to-one correspondence.
Dr. Maria, as you have worked in various institutions, academic institutions, and worked with the different types of students or professors in different levels, do you think meditation or some kind of Buddhist teachings may help them to enhance their studies or their research? And is it good to include meditation in courses of college level or school level too?
I think it would be very good to include, but before we can do that, I think we need to do way more in-depth research, because not all meditation is good for everyone, and mindfulness is not good for everyone. So for example, I was a competitive tennis player, and before, like for example, you don't do mindfulness before going to play in competition because it's relax you. It should not. You need meditation which gives you some energy, like self-deity visualization. So mindfulness is not appropriate for people, for athletic people, for people, even for scientists who are doing very intense, focused, research. It's not appropriate. So before we can prescribe, we really need to understand, how different meditation affect different people and what is their strengths or weaknesses. So then before putting everyone into mindfulness, as they're doing right now in the West, maybe we can come up with more individualized approach, depending what this person needs. If I want to enhance my visualization, maybe I need Idam, maybe I need tantric stuff. If I have some mental problem, or chronic stress, then I might need mindfulness, but we need to be more differentiative, and we need to understand more about meditation before to introduce it to school.
Okay. So once again, about visualization. Are there many types of visualizations, right? What kind of visualization may some person use in some sort of work or some purpose? Can you refer some types of visualization that this person may use this type of visualization or not?
People usually use average people, who do not do any work particularly requiring visualization. They use, if their brain is healthy, they use all these different types of visualization. But then if you become an expert in particular profession like art, you develop, or you maybe have genetically very high particular visualization. Like for artists, the most important is color and shape visualization. How well they visualize shape, texture, color, all these vivid visual characteristics. And if person becomes a scientist, scientists usually don't have, and they don't need this great, colorful, artistic visualization. But if you become a scientist, you do need very high what they call spatial visualization of space. You need to be able to imagine complex spatial three-dimensional relations, So different professions might require, visual professions might require very specific high ability of particular visualization. Like for art, it's color, for example. For science, it's spatial, it's space visualization.
When we dream also, we visualize something. Is that also your part of study?
I don't study dreams, but I'm interested in dreams. But of course, during dreams, the visual cortex is active. So of course, visualization happening during dreams as well.
So this doesn't have any scientific meaning or values?
Why? I mean, what exactly? Visualization during dreams?
Yeah.
The thing is, we don't know much about dreams, actually. As a neuroscientist, not yet. We do not know much exactly, and this very interesting topic of lucid dreams, when people actually know in dreams that they're dreaming. It's also only recent discovery, relatively recent. So we still study dreams. Of course, visualization might have a huge importance, but for future research.
Okay, so we have very limited time now, but you have lots of things to share about this cognitive neuroscience. Do you wish to add some more things?
Yes, I think what I wanted to say is that unfortunately, the real scientific research on meditation has not started yet. A lot of clinical research on health, a lot of behavioral research, but no real scientific research on the mechanism, on how it works, on the types of meditation, on its variety of different meditative traditions. They might work differently, so we really need, as a scientist, because for science it's a huge value to understand how it works, and also for meditative tradition, to preserve them, to show the value of this tradition to humanity. I think I really want to say that we really need real scientific research on meditation, taking into account complexity of meditation and complexity of our cognition.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maria Kozhevnikov, for sharing your views with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us too. Keep watching Bodhi television. Bhavatu Sarva Mangalam.